He is a gentle soul whose inner brilliance remains hidden beneath a veil of uncertainty. AJ's timid demeanor masks a vibrant spirit yearning to break free, aching for acceptance and the courage to embrace an authentic life. From the moment the Fab Five step into AJ's world, they sense his unspoken struggles. Here I am again with this crazy machine that never works the way I want it to. They sense his unspoken struggles and set out on a mission to illuminate his path towards self-discovery. As the focus of their guidance, their attention, their direction, and their teaching, AJ embodies vulnerability, quietly grappling with the weight of societal expectations and a sense of not quite fitting in. With each passing moment, Antony, the culinary virtuoso, delicately nurtures AJ's self-worth, sowing seeds of self-care and self-love through simple acts of preparing nourishing meals together. Antony reminds AJ that his own well-being deserves attention, validating his inherent value and helping him realize that he is deserving of love and acceptance. Bobby, the visionary of design, unveils a transformation that extends far beyond the physical realm. As he weaves his magic, Bobby crafts a space that reflects AJ's authentic self, a sanctuary where he can finally shed the layers of doubt and fully embrace his unique identity. With each thoughtful detail, Bobby creates an atmosphere that speaks to AJ's vibrant personality, fostering a sense of belonging and self-expression. Karamo, the empathetic soul and cultural guide, engages AJ in profound conversations that delve into the depths of his emotions. Together, they navigate the treacherous waters of self-doubt, unearthing the roots of AJ's insecurities. With gentle encouragement, Karamo empowers AJ to confront his past and embrace his truth, reassuring him that self-acceptance is the key to a life lived authentically. And Tan, my man Tan, the style savant, carefully curates a wardrobe that becomes AJ's armor of confidence. With every tailored suit and stylish accessory, Tan reveals newfound radiance that emanates from within. Through the transformative power of fashion, AJ begins to shed the cloak of conformity, emerging as a beacon of self-assurance and unapologetic self-expression. Lastly, Jonathan, the effervescent guru of grooming, showers AJ with unwavering support and infectious energy. As he lovingly tends to AJ's hair and beard, Jonathan instills the belief that self-care is not only an act of self-love, but also a declaration of one's true essence. With every touch, Jonathan helps AJ embrace his uniqueness, celebrating the beauty that lies in being exactly who he is. Tears flow freely, laughter fills the air, and amidst the emotional whirlwind, AJ emerges as a resplendent butterfly, his wings unfurled, ready to take flight into a future teeming with self-acceptance, love, and the unshakable knowledge that his authentic self is worth celebrating. Through AJ's captivating and tender journey, this episode of Queer Eye, entitled Too Gay or Not Too Gay, becomes a poignant testimony to the transformative power of self-discovery, self-acceptance, and the unwavering support of those who truly see us for who we are. It reminds us that within each of us lies a unique journey waiting to be embraced with open arms and celebrated with all the love and compassion that we deserve. Yeah? Now, while aficionados of Queer Eye, Reverend Tom, say that every episode is a tearjerker, This one was particularly emotional as the Fab Five helped this self-proclaimed straightest gay guy in Atlanta come out to his stepmother and make peace with his past. Don't you just love a makeover story? They're emotional and compelling, like the ugly duckling becoming a swan, Beauty and the Beast, Pygmalion and his statue Galatea. And who doesn't love a good old Cinderella story? I know I'm still waiting for my prince, but shh, don't tell my therapist. Sarah, you can talk to me about that after church. No matter the circumstances of the duckling or the beast, we root for their personal growth and transformation because we can identify our own desire for the same thing. We aspire to improve our lives by seeing positive change in others. We empathize with the struggles and celebrate the successes and become emotionally invested in the character's outcomes. We're validated either because we identify with their starting points or we desire the same improvements. And we learn. Folklore and mythology hold universal lessons about the transformative power of inner goodness, art, and love, that true beauty lies within, not without, and that the journey of self-discovery and acceptance is the way to becoming who we are meant to be. Moreover, shows like What Not to Wear and Queer Eye do the same thing. On top of the philosophical impact, though, they teach us practical tips, techniques, and insights from experts in their fields. The teachers address common challenges and provide solutions that we can apply in our own lives as we seek to make order out of chaos, to make right our lives, and to make peace within. So, what does all this have to do with the mind numbingly repetitive detail, blood, guts, and fire of Leviticus? Well, you might say that God ordained Moses, Aaron, and his sons to be the first Fab Five in an episode called Queer Eye and the Tabernacle. In chapters 8 through 9, we witness the consecration of Aaron and his sons as priests, the dedication of the tabernacle, and the awe-inspiring manifestation of God's glory come among the people. It's a captivating makeover story with profound significance. So when we dig past the ick factor and look underneath the details, we can see how this story resonates with our own longing for personal growth and change. In the context that Reverend Tom set up for us last week of God bringing the people out of enslavement through the desert wilderness on their way to the promised land flowing with milk and honey, God is creating a new order, a new identity, a new way of life for God's people. The people had been enslaved for a long time. Enslavement is what they knew, and enslavement was internalized, as any oppression does to the human spirit. Now, the people are free, and they need these painstaking, detailed instructions about spiritual rituals and practice to allow them to keep God at the center of their community, their worship, and their lives. But they also need teachers, supporters, guiders, and directors to know how to be a free people so that they might express God's love in the world. So God, with infinite wisdom and love, establishes these priests as a transformative force, kind of the queer eye guys that guide the people's metamorphosis so that ultimately they might become priests themselves, inspired, confident, and self-aware, embodying God's love in the world. So let's step back into the text for just a bit as we look at this journey of transformation. We begin with this sacred transformation that we heard happening in chapter 8. God calls and we witness the divine instructions given to Moses to bring Aaron and his sons along with sacred garments, and offerings to the temple, to the entrance of the tabernacle. Moses faithfully follows these instructions, gathering the entire community of Israel to bear witness to this consecration process. This momentous occasion serves as a symbol of loving surrender and purification, making the priests right with God. When you consecrate something, you make it sacred. You make it associated with God. So the tabernacle, the priests, the people, all the ordinary things of these rituals are made sacred because the people just follow the practices. The ordinary becomes the extraordinary, and the people meet God right there. And notice this very important detail, which is repeated through these chapters. Moses gathered all the people to witness the consecration. Beloved, both then and now, it takes the whole to be holy. It takes the whole of our being to be in relationships in a sacred way, and it takes the whole of the community to make what is ordinary sacred. Now, as the ceremony in the tabernacle unfolds, we see the power of cleansing and anointing. Moses washes Aaron and his sons with water, dressing them in sacred attire and anointing them with oil. Imagine, just imagine, close your eyes for a minute and imagine the loving care and attention paid in these temporal, sensual steps. There is touching, smelling, draping, tasting. Each step of this act holds profound symbolism, signifying the purification of mind, body, and spirit, and the connection spiritually with the importance of having a clean conscience and a heart full of grace as we say, "Yes, God, here we are. We offer ourselves to you in service." And then there is this waiting. Once the ordination has taken place, the priests and the witnesses wait for 7 days. Doesn't it always take time for stuff to settle in and become fully? And in God's order, new creations begin to be embodied and celebrated on the 8th day. God created heaven and earth and light and dark and humans and plants and animals and fish and everything else, and then rested on the 7th day. And then creation was whole on the 8th day. So after the ordination ceremony and the waiting on the 8th day, the text brings us this story of worship and blessing and joy. Moses calls Aaron and his sons and the elders, everybody. He brings everybody together, and the people bring their offerings, and Moses declares that the Lord will appear among them. As Aaron carries out the sacrificial rituals, he blesses the people, presenting the sin offering, the burnt offering, and the peace offering, just as God commanded through Moses. And the culmination of all of this is met with this awe-inspiring moment when the glory of God appears, consuming the offerings with fire, and the people, all the people, every one of them, the holy whole, respond with shouts of joy, and they fall face down before the divine presence. God is there with them in this ordinary space made sacred, and the divine presence is there with them all, and they fall face down together in awe. We witness in this text the establishment of the tabernacle as a sacred space where the people encounter the divine. The meticulous attention to detail and the prescribed rituals reflect this profound desire for a world where God's presence is pervasive and accessible to all the people. The consecration of the priests and the dedication of the tabernacle signify this movement from God being absent in Egypt to God being present with the people, from their enslavement to liberation. This movement is designed to teach God's people and us to order our lives in such a way that the divine is present in every ordinary moment and every temporal aspect of our existence. God is inviting the people to embrace a new order, a new week of creation, a new beginning, and their own transformation. The priests are consecrated to help the people to question their established patterns and feelings and order their lives in a way that allowed the divine to be present always. The people need to walk before they can run. And Leviticus, this priestly manual, is designed to instruct them in the beginnings of their new order. But the intention is to instruct them how to walk out of their old identity so that they too can reflect the love of God by running into the world as people transformed by this new order. Are you with me? You're not? I don't hear you. Moses may be the producer of this episode, Reverend Todd, but the priests are being prepared to guide the people's personal transformations. They're the spiritual makeover mentors who assist the people in their journey toward a renewed and empowered existence. And interestingly, just like with many others throughout the stories of God's people, think shepherds, fishermen, tax collectors, people like me, this high priest, Aaron, is an ordinary man. In fact, he was a bit of a mess along the way. Do you remember the golden calf debacle? Yet he was called and consecrated to guide and teach and empower, Reverend Tom, the people, guide the people to experience the transformative power of God in their lives. Beloved, being transformed, witnessing to the power and presence of God in one's life is not limited to a specific gender or sexual orientation or priestly class. It is not the rich, it is not the spiritually advanced, it is not the people that can buy their way to a special courtside seat in this new ordering of the world. Beloved, everybody is in the presence of the divine. And this is a major moment in the forming of God's people because this is about a new kind of tribe that has been called to help create a new kind of world. And this episode, with all of its monotony and gore, ends with God's presence, God's glory, God's goodness, joy, wonder, awe in all of the people, for all of the people. Yeah, this text is primitive and full of slaughter and blood, and only men are priests. It's 1,000 years old, and it reflects what was then. We do not live with these same sensibilities, and frankly, they grate on us. But it is also a story about wonder and awe and peace and joy, and there's something about it that is incredibly inclusive. We have average, ordinary people experiencing divine presence and being invited to a heightened experience of the world and the depth of life. Ordinary people being taught how to be free. Ordinary people chosen by God to demonstrate God's boundless love and acceptance for all. Ordinary people being transformed. Ordinary people just like us. Moses and Aaron and the Queer Eye guys are on the same mission as we are, to love God and love God's people. And you already know this, but this is why we do this. That is why we show up for worship, to love God. That is why we show up for each other, to love God's people. We are being the tabernacle, the place where we meet God. We are being the priests for each other, the queer ones who guide each other to be who and what we are meant to be. We are the lovers of all of God's creation. We are being the gathering and the witnesses and the rituals that remind us to whom we belong. We are on a simple mission to love God and love God's people so that they can learn how to love God and love God's people, so that they can learn how to love God and love God's people. You see what we're doing here? You see how that works? Do you? You can tell me. Moses and Aaron's sons were on the same mission, called by God, consecrated to make the ordinary sacred, to make the tabernacle the container for that purpose. The spiritual rituals were put in place to hold the people to the purpose. The practices prepared the people to love God and experience God in their midst so that they could see God in the midst of each other. Much like how the Queer Eye team imparts their expertise and guidance to uplift others, the priests then and the priests that you are fulfill a similar role in guiding people towards a deeper understanding of God's love and grace. The priesthood provides spiritual support, teaching and nurturing, inspiring the people to embrace their divine potential and participate actively in the creation of a harmonious and just world. Just as the Queer Eye team aims to improve the lives of individuals they encounter, the priests then and the priests that you are strive to transform the lives of the people by instilling values such as empathy, compassion, and forgiveness. Through their guidance, the people are encouraged to break free from the shackles of the past, embrace their unique qualities, and discover their own spiritual gifts to serve others. As the people, as we embrace our priestly calling, we become instruments of God's love in the world, spreading that kindness, spreading that healing, spreading understanding. This collective transformation leads to the establishment of a new order characterized by unity, justice, and love. The people once enslaved and marginalized now stand tall as empowered priests, representing God's diverse and inclusive nature to the world. In this Leviticus narrative, God's creation of a new order is realized through the transformative work of the priests who function as metaphorical Queer Eye team. Their role is to guide the people towards their priestly calling, fostering personal growth and embodying God's love and acceptance. The people are empowered to contribute to a more compassionate and harmonious world, reflecting God's divine plan for humanity. How beautiful is this calling? Do you feel it? Now, to be clear, Queer Eye is a bit of a fantasy. These really lovely people spend a week with someone, and let's face it, it is television. So the metamorphoses we experience are curated for sure, yet right there in front of us, week in, week out. How many seasons now in this reboot? 7, I think. 7 seasons. The possibility of transformation is very real. And our appreciation of that possibility is ancient and universal. Transformation from what was to what can be is the ongoing story and experience of God's people, from creation to the tabernacle, to the temple, to the manger, to resurrection, to Pentecost, to right here, right now. Transformation, Bryce. This is what we are doing, being the agents of change, called by God on behalf of God's grace and glory, making love and justice real in the world. And I am not suggesting that decades or generations of enslavement can be transformed by a handful of experiences with a few experts in fashion or culture, or even by a week of care by an insightful therapist or pastor. The body definitely keeps the score. Generational trauma is very real. Power corrupts, and our culture and our religion have harmed so much and so many. And yet, it is possible, with time and attention and love, to transform our enslavements to shame, loss, the trauma of abuse and oppression, addiction, homophobia, white supremacy, and more. It is possible to be transformed. paying attention to the detailed spiritual practices that bring you into a relationship with God and God's beloved community is a great place to ground that process. We don't have all the answers, but we've got some of them. Having the guidance and care of emotional and spiritual mentors, the attention of a spiritual community, and the love of God is a great place to start. So I pray for that for you today. I pray that you might hold fast to those things and look for the places where transformation can happen for you. God is dwelling here amongst us in the bread, in the cup, in the word, in those doors, in the heights and in the depths, and in you as the priesthood of all believers. For you have been called to be the tabernacle, to be the space where the divine dwells. You have been called to recognize the sacred in the ordinary. You have been called to see the divine in each other. You have been called to transformation. May it be so.